COVID-19 is no longer an acceptable excuse as to why you weren't hired when essential workers were working hard and you were sitting at home.
Hopefully, a lot of people are taking this time to retool because a lot of those jobs that people were talking about trying to go back to, they won't be able to go back to immediately.
Many people just aren't good at interviewing. They just don't have to interview that often. You need to put yourself out there, and it is uncomfortable. Someone's going to ask you a question, and you're going to go, you're going to freeze. You got a third eye, and they're looking at you like, what's wrong with this person? They can't respond to that question. It's tough.
Welcome to the What Do You Stand For podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the What Do You Stand For podcast, the place where emerging leaders in hospitality come to be informed, inspired, and transformed. We are here today to talk about something that's facing many, many leaders in hospitality. Given the times that we're in and the impact that COVID-19 has had on the hospitality industry, there are a lot of very, very talented leaders out there who have been, I think the word of the day is furloughed. Never knew what that meant a few months ago. Laid off, unemployed, looking, underemployed, and just wondering what's going to happen next for them. And there's literally millions of people out there in the marketplace, many of them who are going to most likely have to be looking for new jobs. You know, and this podcast is all about helping leaders grow in their leadership skills, and certainly helping leaders separate themselves from everybody else in the interview process is something that we want to talk about today. So we really titled this podcast, How to Interview Like a Leader. What are skills, what are things that you do in the interview process to make sure that you stand out and that you interview as a leader? So today I have with me the squad. Without a doubt, we have Colin.
I'm very happy to be here, Arthur. Thanks for having me.
And then next we have DJ Daryl Jackson.
What's up? What's up, people?
What's up, Daryl?
What's going on?
Jerry, welcome back. Welcome back.
Hi, Jerry. I'm glad to be here and happy to help everybody.
Thank you, Jerry. And then finally, Alejandra.
Hi, everybody.
Ali's in the house.
Here you go. Our resident millennials in the house. So let's get to the question at hand. You know, we kind of teed it up a little bit. A lot of great leaders out there looking. What's some things we can share with them to help them really distance themselves from the competition and really stand out as a great leader, you know, one that that potential employer just can't say no to them. So, Daryl, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's a lot of things. I just want to kick off really quick. When you're looking to be interviewed with a different company, you want to do your research on that company. Make sure you understand what they do, what their goals are, what are their accomplishments, and really research the company, because there's nothing like having some intel in terms of what that company does. You also want to be able to say why you would like to work for that company.
Hey, DJ, you know, that's awesome, right? And actually, that was on my, I do speak for a living, everybody. Sorry about that. That was one of the things that's on my list. But you know what? If we can we just take a second? Can we unpack that a little bit more? Like, when you say research a company, like, tell me if I'm going to look for a job, what does research a company mean?
Know what the products they're serving. What do they sell? And how you can impact that company is very important. So you don't want to just say, hey, I'm looking for a job. And they're not going to hire you because you're looking for a job. They want to know how you can impact their business. How can you impact their business model? So you have to understand what their pillars of success are and what do they do. So researching the type of business, the volume that they do, and the clientele that they cater to. There's just a couple examples.
And also the company culture. What do you think about that? Understanding the company culture, understanding the chain of command and things of that sort, Daryl, from your perspective.
Oh, most definitely, because, you know, you want to be able to align your own beliefs. You're not going to work for a company that you don't believe the same way. It's going to be some similarities, and it should be aligned with your own personal beliefs. So it's not you're trying to make it fit. It's an easy transition. It's like joining a new family, and it's just an extension of who you are. So definitely, you want to make it easier on yourself. Some cultures are really relaxed. Some are very strict. They stand by the rules. And some are just laid back and just, hey, let's do it. Let's take care of business. And it's all about fun, and it's all about making sure we take care of business. But understanding that your beliefs are in alignment with that. So the culture is very important. I agree.
And one of the things that I found with both of those statements, right? Do your research and know where you're going to interview, right? And understanding the culture. It's upon us in this day and age, right? Us as the interviewee, the people looking for jobs, to draw correlations from their experience to the answers to those questions. Okay. You actually should stick it in your email. You should make sure that you actually say it when it comes up in conversation in the interview. Don't be shy. You're there to sell, right? Amen. Selling the best product there is, yourself. And you got to make that correlation. And the same thing goes with culture, right? Hey, tell me about your company culture. They're going to give you an answer, right? Whatever that answer is, it's your job as the interviewee to make your past experience fit their culture. Even if you don't want the job, even if it's a culture you don't want to be a part of, in that interview, you have to draw the lines for the interviewer so that they don't have to.
I would add, you said, ask the question, tell me about your culture. And I would suggest, no, that's not going to have you stand out. No, you should go into that interview knowing what their culture is, because going back to what DJ said, you do your research.
Yes.
If you know what their culture is, now that's already going to distance you from a lot of candidates. Because when you can show, I get your culture, and here's what I've done, and here's what I believe, that demonstrates I get your culture.
Right. So you're building a case. You're building a case and drawing your exact experience with the exact culture that this company has. And you don't even have to, sometimes you don't even have to say that out loud, or at least not more than once. You have to, go ahead and build your case so that they get that you're a natural fit for them. And I would suggest highly that no one try to make themselves a fit for something that they just read. Let's say you read this on their website, or you did some research in the company, you found out what their culture is. If it's not you, pass, because I'm here to tell you it will not last. And in today's world, a lot of people are very serious about finding jobs, and they'll do just about anything to get one. And I would suggest slowing down on that, like slow your roll and just say, wait a second, I don't want to take just any job, because I don't want to be looking for another one in a year.
And it's funny you say that, Jerry, is a lot of it has to do with you're being interviewed.
Right.
The cool thing is you should be interviewing them. Why would I want to work for you?
Right.
It should be always the reason, hey, why do you want to work for us? Why do I want to work for you? So you have to have some questions for them as well.
What are some questions that you're asking these interviewers as the interviewee?
Well, number one is going to be, why would I want to work for you? Why would someone want to work? Tell me one of those reasons, because it's their sales pitch. Now they have to really dig down and understand their own culture to be able to give you the sales pitch of what they have and why it's so important.
The first person that you're interviewing with is the gatekeeper, right? Let's just call it what it is, right? The first person you're interviewing with is a gatekeeper. In our hotel world, it was the employment manager, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
That answer's not going to be great unless they're really a talented employment manager. Right? And that's a pretty bold question. Is that going to put the employment manager on the defensive?
That is correct. So a lot of times the initial stage is going to be a screener. That's the person who's either say yay or nay, whether you're going to the next step on the people who's going to be making the decisions. Making it past those people is usually just a series of questions that they ask everyone, and being prepared to be able to answer those questions. And very simple. And so once you get past that and you get to the people who are actually making the decisions and moving on through the process, that's when you're really focusing on those why do I want to work? Why would anybody want to work for you?
There's different levels of what's going on. And that direct question of why I want to work with you is not going to work at that gatekeeper level. But on the other side of it, the question could be, tell me what you like best about working here. Right? It's the same question. It's just worded in a different way that doesn't put the person on the defensive.
And two, I want to say this is on this note is that you don't want the wrong job. So like I was saying before, just make sure that you're doing the interviewing as well. Yes, they're looking at you, but you need to be looking at them as well. That will give you the ability to have this calm confidence and this curiosity. So you go into the interview and you're not, desperate or scared. You can't go into an interview desperate or scared. You have to go into it with a calm confidence and a sense of curiosity and understanding that, look, I'm going to meet someone today. Wow. Let me have this conversation. And I think that's a better way of going about it.
Yeah. Building relationships.
Absolutely.
That's true.
And I would not give up the whole idea of not just researching the company, but researching the person.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's where the gold is at.
What do you mean by research the person? The person interviewing you?
Yeah.
Yep.
LinkedIn, you got Facebook, you got a little bit of everything. People.
What if you don't get their name before you go?
Try to get their name. Just call and ask, who am I going to be interviewing with?
There's a good chance you may not have the employment managers or the initial screener's name, but as you start moving through the organization, typically you get a little advance notice, and that's the opportunity to really use those tools and stalk them. I mean, I've talked to people who are like, I don't like doing that. It feels like stalking. I'm like, well, that's not stalking. That's called research. Research. And let's be real here. Most people really enjoy it when people talk them up or say positive things about them.
Mm-hmm.
And we said it's about building a relationship. You agree with us, right? It's about making that connection.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to make a connection with people, say nice things about them. Tell them you read about their career, their college,
impressive,
what they're into.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a question then. Does any of this change now with COVID-19 and the fact that most of interviews now, if you can get an interview, are either on the phone now or on Zoom? What are some tips and tricks and things that you might want to prepare for?
This is cool because this is what I coach a lot of people on. And even on some of my videos that I kind of make these recommendations. A lot of the calls and a lot of interviews now are done by video, Zoom, or whatever, FaceTime, whatever the case may be. One of the cool things you need to do is find a quiet space, somewhere where you're not going to be interrupted with noise or a lot of people coming through. You need a quiet space to do it and act as if, and you need to dress for the job. You got to dress for the role that you're interviewing for, prepare, give them the same respect that you would as if you were sitting in front of them, and make sure you're not looking around and being distracted or walking around with a phone or anything like that. Because that's not something you would naturally do in a regular interview. So when you're sitting in a Zoom call, FaceTime, or whatever the case may be, you act as if you're sitting there in person, and you do the very same thing. You treat it the same. Dress nice, clean environment, no distractions, and answer the answers or the questions that they ask of you, and treat it no different. Those would be my recommendations.
Excellent. I think that's right on.
All right. So I got two more little tips to that. Okay. One is if it's a telephone call specifically, you have to find their picture. Okay. Whoever you're interviewing with picture, and you put it up on your screen and you talk directly to that picture and you make eye contact. I'm telling you, it makes a difference. When you're actually looking at a person in the eye, you get a natural smile, you become more energetic, the whole world comes out, right? You become yourself because you're actually looking at who you're talking to, and that's a really big deal.
Definitely what you're seeing a lot more of nowadays too is particularly on the Zoom platform, or group interviews on a Zoom platform.
That's true.
That's got to be crazy.
That's true.
Yeah. So that recommendation of you make eye contact with a person and you kind of float around. So you can't just stare off and not look at anyone because you're not making connection with anyone. So you should bounce from person to person as if you're speaking directly to them and connecting with them. So that's something to definitely keep in mind as well. The other layer, you want to interview like a leader in a panel interview, connect with each individual, and it's draw in that person that's not asking questions. Ask them a question.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and a couple of things that I also do, I always ask people, how did they get to where they are?
That's the question.
It is a great segue, and you're able to connect a little bit better because you're able to see some similarities of how it basically kind of related to you. And you'd be like, wow, this is much like what I did. And you'll see that the ice is really going to be broken in those opportunities, and you become more natural. The goal is to be yourself, be as genuine as you possibly can. And it's almost like meeting a new friend.
So on TikTok, there's videos from recruiters and people in HR where they're giving advice, just like we're kind of doing now, to people who are interviewing. And there was a woman in HR who advised that recruiters don't like to hire people who have been out of work for more than 3 months, and that there is discrimination done to people who have been out of a job for that long. And she said that you need to have something prepared, like your excuse to why, because COVID-19 is no longer an acceptable excuse as to why you weren't hired when essential workers were working hard and you were sitting at home. So is that true?
It is true. And it is unfortunate because a lot of people have certain life experiences that may have forced them to be out of work, whether it's personal, taking care of a family member who's maybe very ill, or even themselves for that matter. Life-changing experiences where maybe the market where they are, where jobs basically started to see a decline in employment. And so the unemployment in the area is so it's a number of different reasons. And to your point, you want to make sure you do practice your response.
Mm-hmm.
I had a guy who was a perfect fit for a job. And I mean, good fit all around. And his response on just that reason was not good enough, did not suffice, and he needed to prepare. And so he gave some, I can't recall exactly, just say, I'm, just been out for COVID and just haven't found anything. That's not enough. And so you want to make sure you address it as soon as possible.
Okay.
It's one of those things that, is in the room. You might as well address it anyway. So it's going to come up. So you might as well.
Do you put that you're furloughed versus laid off, or do you not mention it? If laid off, I guess it is what it is. But what about furloughed? Because this is a new term, right, that so many people are, facing right now.
To me, furloughed implies that you're coming back.
Yes.
I don't know that I would address it at all. I don't know, DJ.
I think it's subjective.
Okay.
I think what author was saying, do research on the person, right? Get an understanding of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be able to kind of talk, kind of understand where they are in terms of how to speak to you. You just got to make the connection.
I'm going to disagree with you guys. I think that if you're applying for a job that it's meant to be a long-term job and you're saying that you're furloughed, you're just slamming the door.
I agree.
You're saying, I'm not committed long-term, but I'm going to hang around until my old job opens back up. And given how many people are out there in the marketplace, they're going to wait until they find someone who's going to commit to them long-term. If that's truly what you're trying to do, is find a short-term job until your long-term job comes back, that's a strategy that, I would suggest you, genuinely, when you're honest, you find something that is short-term versus going and lying like a rug, saying, you're looking to come in for the next 20 years, because that comes out. They feel that. Because they're going to be asking themselves that question. In certain markets, it's known which employees are furloughed, and there's an expectation that business is going to come back.
Correct, yeah.
If that's on your resume. People are already thinking that. So you're almost better off looking for those short-term, interim gigs and just being genuine and honest.
That's right. I agree. If you're furloughed, I would say to present, like how your job says from and to present. But if you're laid off, then I would put that end date on there and just be about that. But in my opinion, even if you're furloughed and you're looking for another job, look for a better job. Think big, right? We're looking back at our pillars, right? For what do you stand for? Just think big and look for a better job, the next step, the next move. And you're employed at that time when you're doing that. So people really will look at you as currently employed.
Many people just aren't good at interviewing. They just don't have to interview that often.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things, you need to put yourself out there, and it is uncomfortable. We talk about think big, and that talks to how you see yourself and do you believe in yourself. And it's, if you haven't interviewed regularly, it's tough the first few times because someone's going to ask you a question and you're going to go, you're going to freeze, and you're going to think that, you got a third eye and they're looking at you like, what's wrong with this person? They can't respond to that question. Or you took like 10 seconds to think through something, or you gave them an answer that just didn't roll off, like, it wasn't succinct, and it's tough. It's tough, and you need to go through that a few times until you really yourself figure out who you are, what's important, and what your strengths are.
I totally agree with that. Here's a couple things that I also do, and it's funny. We're talking about a lot of things that I kind of focus on with some of my candidates. And one of the things is cool about working with recruiters and stuff like that is because recruiters their role is really to prepare you and get you ready for the opportunity. That also includes mock interviews.
Yeah.
So you get a chance to they make recommendations, they make some changes and ask you some of those hard questions that basically the employer is typically will be asking you more than likely. And so you can kind of prepare.
So one of the best advice I ever got was write out your answers, right? Write out your answers to the tough questions. Just write it all out. Doesn't mean you're going to recite it. Just writing it out actually clears your mind. Hey, Arthur, before we get off or on to the next part, I thought of an act small when Jerry threw in the think big. One of the things that I learned very early in my hospitality life was the power of the smile. And advice I've given to people all through my career is not just smile in the interview. And this is probably more advice when you get back to in-person interviewing, but smile to every single person in that organization. When you walk in that front door, you're smiling. When you're walking through and you say hello to the doorman, you're smiling. When you're walking anywhere, all you do is smile, and it changes the way people think about you. And then all of a sudden they're saying, hey, who was that person that just smiled at me on the way in, right? It's an act small, right? It's people talking to people, and it makes a difference.
Yeah, remember, it's the hospitality industry, so engaging with everyone, having a conversation, saying hello, asking questions. One of the things that I've seen done is if you are able to actually get in the building, the people that you're not necessarily interviewing with, but who are kind of on the fringes, like receptionists or people just working in the area, people passing through, most of those people know that you're a candidate coming through for an interview and a potential someone that the company's going to hire. And it's not uncommon for the person that you know you're there to interview with to then go to those people and say, hey, what did you think about that candidate?
That's crazy.
Because
that's nuts.
Most people with half a brain know that if I'm interviewing somebody, I'm at my best, all right? I'm putting my best foot forward. But then when they step out of that spotlight, usually their true self comes out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
So we want to see what people were like when they thought no one was looking. So you should always be on whenever you walk in that building.
Amen.
And that's to everybody out there listening too. I mean, I know someone myself who's faced with that. I think that the biggest, in closing for me, the biggest thing I want to say about this is just don't be, I know that times are tough, but try not to be desperate and just accept the first job, because you're more important than that. Who you are and what you're going to do for the next year, 2 years, whatever it is, 5 years, 10 years, this is going to be a stepping stone for that. So take your time, make sure it's the right fit, and go conquer the world. That's all I have to say about that matter.
Thank you.
I want to disagree with Jerry, but it was so sentimental and it was so nice that I don't want to do it. I agree with everything that Jerry said, but I also think there are people out there that have to feed their families. Yeah. And if you have to go out and you have to feed your family, use everything we talked about and get the first job that you can get so you can feed your family. And your practice in doing so will help you get the job of your dreams that Jerry is referring to.
I was just going to say, I agree with Colin, but I'm saying don't go after the job that's the wrong job for you. You have to go get a job to get you through. Now that's different from getting into the wrong company that's really looking, just be honest, live honestly in the world with that person and with that company, because one day you're going to be that hiring authority and you do not want people to use you either. So get a job, like Colin said, to get you through, but, just be kind.
Yeah, we both agree, even though it might not have sounded that way, but we both agree, right? You want to be in a place you want to work, because there's nothing worse than going to work when you don't like being there.
Right.
Awesome. Brilliant. Everybody's search for new careers is going to be different. Mm-hmm. Hopefully a lot of people are taking this time to retool. Because a lot of those jobs that people were talking about trying to go back to, they won't be able to go back to immediately, because it's going to take a while for them to come, basically see a rise in them, because people are afraid to get together in large groups, depending on what they are. Some industries are faster than others. Be patient. Be patient through this process. Learn as much as you possibly can. And, even if it's down to learning a new language, those things are very important. And so take this time to retool and enjoy the process and reflect on some things that you can do better and some things you want to accomplish you didn't get a chance to do, but you can do it on the next one, and prepare.
Yeah, you're right. There are a lot of people in transition. A lot of people are going to be taking roles that they may not have taken prior to this. And, I think it's important that everyone never lose sight of the fact that you bring value. You bring value, you bring talent, you bring abilities, you bring skills, you bring passion to whatever job that you're interviewing for. And there are employers out there who are looking for people who have those traits and who are going to be, some levels, lucky to have you. They're going to embrace you because, you think about the hospitality industry. It is still an industry where talent is everything. And there's a talent shortage in hospitality. I know right now, it may not feel that way, but the industry is going to stand itself back up and it's going to walk out of this.
Yes, it is.
And never lose sight of the value that you bring.
That's right.
Never lose sight of the long-term value you bring because of a short-term setback. And I know it feels like forever right now, but it's a short-term setback that we're going to walk through in this industry. So thank each and every one of you, the squad, as I love to call you, for spending some time with me today and addressing a topic that's on many, many, many minds out there. And I think we did a good job unpacking some good information and sharing it. I hope our listeners who will hear this will see the value and take heed and run with the information that we shared. Definitely want to invite some of you back to our future podcasts. We're going to continue to unpack what leadership should be all about in today's day and age, and that leadership should be about more than just the bottom line. It should be about standing for something. We're standing for people, building individuals, building communities, building families, and helping people grow. If you have any thoughts or suggestions or questions, feel free to go to arthurkeith.com, go to the Ask Arthur page, leave us a question there. We love questions, leave them there. Look forward to connecting with you.
Bring them on.
Ask us things.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers, everybody.
Have a great evening.
Look for us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Find the links on arthurkeith.com. What do you stand for?